On this episode of Inside Line, I'm going to show you a module that's going to allow you to modify your tire size, unlock some very cool features on the Rubicon, and hopefully keep you out of the dealership for any future upgrades. Now the module I'm going to be using to unlock all of the features is from Z Automotive. It's called a Tazer Mini. Now this is the third one of these I've purchased over the past few years. The reason, well, on these 2018 and newer JL platforms and the 2020 and newer Jeep Gladiator platforms, you need some type of module that is going to allow you to recalibrate for the tires, turn off auto stop start if that's annoying you, and get into a handful of other functions. Now, I picked up this one from Northridge 4x4, and as soon as I got it shipped in, I went ahead and made sure it was fit with the latest firmware. Now, Z Automotive is constantly updating their firmware, whether they're fixing bugs or just offering new features. It doesn't cost anything to update it. They come with a USB cable, so basically you download a couple things, plug this into your computer, make sure you got latest firmware, and then you're ready to install it. Now this is going to be installed just above your OBD2 port, right under the dash. Now you have a gateway module that has two plugs from the factory. You're going to unplug that and plug this in. Now a couple things. You can go ahead and plug this in, get into the programming functions, which I'll talk about a little bit, and then you can pull it back out. However, you're going to lose the opportunity to use the what's called live features of it. I would recommend plugging it in, keeping it in. It's not going to be in your way. It's not going to be rattling or anything underneath your dash. I typically just put these things in and let them ride. So now let's get into how you actually pair this with the vehicle. So once you have the module plugged in, you're going to turn your ignition all the way to the run setting. Make sure your AC's off, stereo's off, all that good stuff. And using the arrow keys on the steering wheel, you're going to get down to the audio setting. So cruise on down here. That's number 7. Now you're going to press left arrow on the left side and cancel, and you're going to see light show. Now that lets you know that, hey, the thing is plugged in. But before you can cruise through doing all that good stuff, you need to go ahead and marry it. And in order to do that, you're going to press left over and cruise control on. You'll see the cruise control. Now it's going to count down. Hopefully, with any luck, it will go ahead and marry and not have an issue. Now I've had trouble with these in the past where it doesn't marry right away, and I just have to retry again. Usually not a big deal. So see, right now it's saying BCM busy. Hopefully that means it's still working. But again, I've had an issue with it in the past. Typically all you have to do is, retry it again, but we'll give it a second here, see what it does. Hopefully it gets married up without an issue. And then once it's married to the vehicle, we can go ahead and really tie it in. Okay. All right, cool. We are married now. So at this point we can exit out of this menu, go into performance. For most of you watching this, performance is going to be maybe the most important of all tabs, and I'll show you why. Because inside it not only holds your tire sizing, but it's going to show your gear ratio as well. This is where you're going to change it. So if you've moved up to a taller tire size or you've changed your differential gear ratio, this is going to be where you can modify it. Now, if you've also gone in and changed your transfer case, this is where you can change your transfer case ratio. And now we're already out of it and into the tire pressure monitoring system. But before I get into that, let's jump back to the tires. Now, maybe one of the biggest reasons why you would go with a programmer is because you've moved up to a taller tire. Now, that's exactly what I did. This is a 35 by 1150 Nitto Trail Grappler. Now, this is a load range C tire, and it fits on this stock Rubicon Gladiator without a single bit of lift. Now, it's great because it stays within spec for this 17 by 7.5 inch tire, And I have done my due diligence and actually proven that this tire and wheel package works fantastic on the Gladiator. It keeps it tucked underneath the vehicle very well, and obviously on the Rubicon we can still wheel it. You're not, limiting yourself in any way. Now, that being said, here are a couple mistakes I commonly see people make with the Tazer. You do not want to input what is printed on the sidewall of the tire. You actually want to get out, measure it, use yardstick or a level to make sure you're getting the exact measurement of the tire as it's sitting on the vehicle. That's going to allow the speedometer to be as close as it possibly can to being accurate. You still might be a slight bit off, but in my experience, it's not going to be 5 or 6 miles off like you would be if you didn't recalibrate. Now, the Nitto tends to run more true to size, so this 35 is actually closer to like a 34.5, maybe a little bit taller. I'll measure it out, be sure to input that correctly. Now, you can drive these Gladiators and the JLs without calibrating them. Now, part of that, thanks to the 8-speed transmission, actually has a tone ring in it that works in conjunction with the wheel speed sensor. So unlike the old JKs that would get really unhappy when you did that, yes, you can drive it with just putting a larger tire on it. But like I said, your speedometer is going to be off, and more importantly, it's not going to shift right. I can tell a huge difference between calibrating for the correct tire size and this thing shifting correctly down the road. Again, I have the 8-speed automatic. If you have a manual, that's not going to make a big difference. But just in case you're curious, hey, is it really worth it for that? Absolutely. Getting a calibrator to properly input your tire size, not only going to give your shift points the proper mapping, but you're going to get the speedo where it needs to be. Now, TPMS is another good one. Now, this is your tire pressure monitoring system. Now, you can tell it, no, I don't have it anymore, or you can also go for the option of changing or modifying the tire pressure threshold. So you can put this all the way down to 0, you can make it 5, whatever you want the vehicle to alert you at that the tire has gotten below that pressure. This is where you're going to go and input that. You can change it from the front to the rear in case you have different air pressure. All right, now I want to skip around to some of the important features that I actually use. Now, lighting, big deal here. Now, the reason is, yes, you can turn off your daytime running lights and all that good stuff, but if you are someone like me that got a non-LED lighting group vehicle and you want to modify or add LED lighting group, this is where you can do it. See, LED headlights. Right now, it acknowledges, no, that it does not have it. But if I order a set, all I have to do is go in here and turn on that it has it, and now I'm all good. I'll probably go ahead and change out the tail lights on this thing to LED, just for the fact I like how they look a little bit better than the stock halogen unit. So that is a feature that is super nice. If you didn't have this, you would have to take it to the dealer and let them input that it now has LED lights in it. So big deal. Now let's jump into the off-road mode, because this is the other one that's pretty effective. Sway bar. Now this is a Rubicon, so it acknowledges that yes, there is a selectable sway bar on the vehicle. If you were to upgrade or swap out to a aftermarket unit, you would want to come in here and turn this off. Now, EPS steer. This is another one if you're going to be a guy that's going to be modifying your vehicle heavily. If you want to go up to a hydraulic assist steering system, say one for PSE Motorsports, you're going to have to let the vehicle know that you're no longer running an electronic pump, because PSE runs an engine-driven one. This is where you'll come in and say, no, I no longer have this electric steering pump. Next to it, you're going to have the lockers. Now, here's something that's kind of neat. Z Automotive actually offers a locker module. So if you got a set of aftermarket axles and you wanted to use the factory locker switches, you can do that now, which is pretty cool. So no matter if you put a set of Pro Rocks in, there is a little harness that they make that you can purchase to do that. Now, obviously, I have Rubicon axles, so I'm good to go. Now, if you did swap in a set of Rubicon axles and a non-Rubicon, I have no idea how that would work. So, sorry, can't help you there. Now, Front axle disconnect. This little front axle is talking about the FAD. Now, if you go to either a larger axle, let's say you didn't do a big 1 ton, or if you did something more common, like either swap out the housing or do like a Pro Rock 44, or do something simple like swap in a set of aftermarket axle shafts that are one piece. This is where you'll say, hey, listen, I no longer have this front axle disconnect, and it will no longer look for that module. So super, super helpful for that. Now, there are a ton of other little features in here for if you have auxiliary switches. I do not. Let's say you added them in, you could turn that on. I do not have blind spot monitoring. You could add that as well. Belt ding, that's for your seat belt. You can turn that off so you don't have to hear that annoying feature. I do not have park sense. Here's another novel one. If you want to mess with your buddies or have something different. The splash screen is that screen when you fire it up and you have this type of display. It shows that it's a Rubicon. Well, you can change that to make it look like it's a Sahara or Overland. I don't know why you would want to, but they give you the option to do that. So those are some of the, let's say, main features that I use. Yes, there are a lot of other features in here. This is just going to show you what module I have in terms of what firmware it's updated to. Now, one more thing that's worth noting, not full reboot, but let's go into, I'll talk about that for a second. Yes, you can check your diagnostic trouble codes and clear them. That is a handy feature. Unmarried. Now, this is going to be for everyone that wants to know, hey, if I take my vehicle to a dealership, is this going to void my warranty? Are they going to see that it's on here? I'm not sure. Z Automotive, I'm going to say, doesn't have the best customer service. I've emailed them about this question a few times, and I haven't got a straight answer. I haven't really got an answer at all, actually. So I'm going to say this. If I was to take my vehicle into a dealership to get it updated, or I had a problem that was completely unrelated to something that I had done, I'm just going to pull the module off. The vehicle can still drive without it and go back to stock, even though the tire size is, going to be different and whatnot. I would just pull it off. I don't think this is going to be something that voids your warranty. This might be a dealer by dealer basis, but it's just worth noting. So these are all of the features and functions you can get into with the vehicle in essentially the off position without it running. Now, let's get into probably maybe everybody's second favorite feature about this, and these are the runtime features. Now, you have a handful of sort of neat and somewhat novel runtime features. Now, runtime means the vehicle is actually turned on and the module is plugged in. Now, I'm going to break down the 3 that are probably the most important, especially for Rubicon owners. Number 1, you can turn off or disable the auto stop start. Now, I'm not going to advocate for or against that. If it bothers you, you can turn it off. And the way it works is the Tazer sort of remembers your preference. So if you get into the vehicle and you turn it off, it's going to stay off. You don't have to go back and turn it on every single time you start the vehicle. So if you really don't like the auto stop start, you can turn it off. I will say, I didn't care for it on my JL. On the Gladiator platform, for whatever reason, maybe it's because the exhaust is a lot further out, it doesn't seem as clumsy, and I've left it on, and it equates to about a mile per gallon difference with keeping it on, which is sort of surprising, but it really does work. And it depends on, again, probably how long you're sitting in traffic and all that good stuff. Now, the number 2 really cool feature is you can actually turn off the electronic stability control. And doing that allows you to basically have kind of free reign and have fun with the vehicle. It sort of defeats the ABS, ESC, all that good stuff. And that kind of works into the same way that the auto stop start does, is you can press the button once and it will remember that setting. So basically your traction control is always defeated. Now, another thing about that that's kind of neat, with the module plugged in, you can actually use, if you have a Rubicon, your lockers in 2-wheel drive. You can also use them in 4-high. You can disconnect the sway bar in 2-wheel drive. So it kind of has some neat features that you can't really do otherwise without this module. That is a big deal. Now, There are some other novel things that I never use. You can do 0 to 60 and check out those times. I think there's also a 0 to 30. And honestly, there's a handful of other stuff that I haven't really touched on that you need to go to Z Automotive just to see, because it is a huge list of things you can do. I like this module for a lot of the very basic features. It allows me to change my tire size, which is something I had to do anyways. I like the fact that it allows me to really defeat all of the electronic nannies, so you really have that option of kind of hooning this thing around and in 4-high or even 2-wheel drive, and nothing's going to turn off. So that's a big deal for the aforementioned reasons of LED lighting upgrades and a lot of future mods that you can do to this thing. Let's say like I don't have the proximity key on this where you just walk up and the door unlocks, but it's kind of cool. I can actually buy that aftermarket or get the Mopar door handles and the harness and then turn it on in the vehicle and say, hey, I've got this now, so I don't have to go take a trip to the dealer. You know, this module, as I'm doing this video, I think it was around $330, something like that. It's not a dirt cheap one, especially when you're looking at it like, man, this is all I got, but it's sort of like a cheat code for your Jeep. You know, it gets into your computer and does stuff that you and I can't do, and allows you to really modify and do things that are going to make your life a lot easier ultimately, and make the Jeep perform better, or kind of give it commands that you wouldn't be able to do edgewise. So a little bit of money spent out front. I think it's worth it. I like these. Again, this is my third one. This is my third Jeep that had to have one. I never really had to worry about that before. It used to be I'd either buy like an AEV Pro Cal, or had a JKS programmer before that, just something pretty basic. But even those did not get into the depth of all the little features and stuff that you can with this. So I like it. It's a cool product. Not a paid endorsement. I've bought all these things. I've literally have over like $1,100 in programmers. But it's worth it. You know, you really, if you need to be able to use all these features, and you know, this is going to be a bigger build that I'm going to need some of those other features for, so it's worth going ahead and spending it now. Now, got some more Gladiator content coming very soon. Hopefully you guys are digging these videos. Please remember to like and subscribe. If you got any questions for me, you can always hit me up at Ali Mansour Editor on Instagram. And until then, we'll see you guys on the trail. See ya.